Okay, guys, this is our final video of the 3-night series on how to navigate new environments. Really excited. I think this was a huge success, and I'm looking forward to doing many more. So tonight, we're going to have a lot of fun talking about advocacy, how to do it, and what does it even mean. Okay, so when you guys join us, please comment where you're from so that we can show our community all the different areas of the world that is coming in to watch this. I know last video, we had some people from India, we had some people from South America, and Australia, and just such a great community. And I think that's what's so special about Facebook here. So again, guys, we're talking about advocacy tonight. I'm going to share some great stories and some tools on how to communicate. And now let's lay the foundation for this. Okay, so my name is Jake Sussman, and I'm an LD advocate running a mentorship program for kids around the world to build self-confidence around the way they learn, coming from a perspective of that of your kids. And, that's something that is, a lot of times in this industry, it's time for the kids to start standing up. And this is where I'm here to be that voice for everyone to say, guys, it's time to embrace ourselves and advocate for each other here. All right, so let's get started. The past for this entire conversation we had on Monday through now, I like to use this analogy. It's called the house analogy. So if anyone who's watching this is in construction, you're going to know what I'm talking about here. But imagine our life journey like the construction of a house, okay? Without the proper support or foundation, that house is going to fall down. Okay, so imagine that analogy with your kids, with school. Without the proper support, without the proper foundation, okay, we never see the foundation, right? But we know that it's strong enough that it will support whatever's built on top. So for our kids, what we're building is that foundation so that whatever they build on top, it's going to support, okay? So we started off talking about becoming an independent learner, okay? Then we talked about the importance of understanding how we learn, right? We can't do anything until we know how we learn, know about our strengths and our different challenges. Once we embrace how we learn, then we can start talking about building our success squad. And to remember what that is, it's a group of individuals who are critical to your success and will help in areas of challenge. Okay, we can't do that without knowing who you are. Okay, so now we've talked about our success squad, but then, can you guys hear me on, Judy, can you hear me here? I know we had some people talking about no sound. So from then, we're talking about how do we then communicate? How do we then advocate to those who don't understand? Okay, because the success squad is critical to practice advocating for people that we trust. But now we're going to talk to people that may not know us. Okay, great, Judy. Glad you got your sound back. Okay, so let's get started here. What is self-advocacy? Okay, I actually looked it up because I have my own thoughts on what self-advocacy is, but according to the dictionary, self-advocacy is the action of representing oneself or one's views or interest. Makes sense. Well, guess what, guys? That's you. So what is it really? It's actually just communication. Okay? When you advocate, you're communicating on behalf of yourself. Right? For those of you in business here, we know that you can have $1 million business idea. But if you don't know how to bring it to market, that $1 million business idea is worth nothing. Okay? So for you are that. Your strengths, your challenges. Okay? For you parents out there working, for those working, we're capitalizing on a strength of ours. Okay? That's advocating, knowing that we know ourselves and we're capitalizing on that. So that's what we're talking about here. And that's all comes down to communication. Okay? And if you don't know how to do that, the chances of getting what you want in life is going to be very slim. And I'm going to start by sharing a story with you. So as I've said before, in my first video, you'll see it, I was in my model train set. And I started building that train set when I was 11 years old, at a time when I wasn't really full of confidence. But what happened was, it was a new project for me, and I needed to learn how to do it. So I had to seek out advice. I did this at 11 because I wanted to learn about it. So whenever I needed help, I had to go ask for help. But what I was doing there as an 11-year-old, I was actually advocating. I was advocating for myself. I didn't realize it because I was doing it because I just wanted to know what to do, but that was advocating. Okay, so every time that I was advocating, there was a reward. It's a level of conscious awareness to know that, oh, I'm advocating right now for myself. It's not just a question or asking for help. This is what advocacy is. Okay, so I want to challenge parents, and I would love for you guys to comment your thoughts on this, is that for whenever your child asks for help for something that they may not know, I challenge you to acknowledge them for advocating for themselves. Just start by acknowledging it. Maybe keep a little tally on when they ask for help, how many times they ask for help, when they're coming, seeking something that is in an area that they don't really know what's good for them. Okay? So that's a challenge I would love to keep for you guys. Okay. That's kind of like the big picture. So let's go one layer deeper here. I want to share a story about timing, because when it comes to communication, it's all about timing. So this is how Steve Jobs and my grandmother taught me about timing. It was actually when the iPhone first came out. It was in 2007, and I was about 12 years old. I was in LA visiting a good friend of mine who recently moved out there. And I was in about 5th grade. But it was the first time that I watched Steve Jobs share and unveil the keynote of the iPhone. I was in awe. And my ADHD kicked in here because I started to hyper focus on this iPhone. I wanted that new iPhone. It was the coolest gadget I've ever seen, or we all have seen. So what did I do? Well, I did what most 12-year-old boys would do, and I asked my mom, "Mom, can I have that?" No. I asked my dad, "Hey, Dad, I have a good idea for my birthday." "Don't even think about it, Jake." So I kept asking, and I was getting so frustrated because my hyper focus on this iPhone wasn't giving up. And, I would ask during dinner, I would ask at the worst times. But then my grandma had the best suggestion, and something that she said to me that I'll never forget. Okay? She said, "Jake, you're only thinking about yourself. You need to go inside their shoes. Why would they want to listen to you and stop what they're doing?" Right? Before, I was just asking whatever I wanted to ask, but I wasn't thinking about them. Okay, this is the foundation of communicating to someone else who doesn't really know what you're talking about or know how you feel, right? Moral of the story here, I didn't get the iPhone. I know. But the lesson I learned was the most valuable. If I really want someone to listen to me, I needed to be inside their shoes. And that took me into middle school, into high school, and eventually college, where whenever I wanted something, then I had to make sure the person who I was asking was at a right time to want to listen. Here's another example. Now we're in college, okay? And I was in a new environment, and I was a freshman, and I needed a place time to share to my teachers how I learned, because they needed to know. These were teachers that teach a bunch of college students. How are they going to help me? So I had to go at the beginning of each semester and share with them how I learned. Okay? And I did it at the beginning before the semester started because I knew that they would not want to listen to me. I needed them to be present with Jake. So I learned how to communicate to them in about timing. Because if I came to them at the end of a class, they're not going to be thinking about what I have to say. Or at the beginning of a class, they're preparing for the class. It wasn't the best time. Okay? So that taught me so much about communication and about timing. Because timing is everything. Again, questions, ask away. Hey, Enid, nice to see you. And Rachel, if you can't hear, maybe your sound may be off. If anyone else have trouble hearing me, please let me know. So I know technology has not been on our side recently. Yesterday was fine. Okay, let's keep going. The next part to this is about how do you present yourself, okay? Dale Carnegie, who is the author of How to Win Friends and Influence People, he gave 3 big points. Don't criticize, don't condemn, and don't complain. Those are the 3 things that when it comes to advocating, when it comes to communicating to someone else, that is, people don't want to hear that. What they want to hear is something more productive. Okay, if you're having a hard time in class, right? If your child is struggling in class, or for the parents, okay, if your child, let's say, okay, parents, your child is struggling in class, all right? You go to the teacher and you're upset. You know, this is your child, this is your baby, and your kid is not being reached the right way. I've heard stories of parents with 100% good reason, upset, walking into the school demanding answers and criticizing the school. Now, I know there's a lot to that, but if we're criticizing someone, why are they going to want to listen to us? If we're condemning them, why are they going to want to listen to what we have to say? And if we complain, why are they going to want to listen? That is like, they're not. So what I learned here also is when we walk into that school, we have to put everything aside. I know where our kid's not being reached. I know for me, when I wasn't being reached in school, when I was in college and high school, I knew that there's something much more here. Maybe there's something going on with my teacher. Maybe there's something bigger. Okay, so I had to ask questions. I had to put myself in their shoes. The first thing I did when I would ask questions to my teachers would be, what got you into this? For the parents, tell them, let's build the team. I spoke about this yesterday, building our team, right? We want to build a team. So let's empower our teachers and the people around us to be on our side. Okay. The next part here is about the transition year. Okay. I am really, really focused on transition because this is the new environment we're talking about. And this is the time of where our kids can practice being in a new environment, which is in our house, getting ready for that transition period. There's times when we can learn how to advocate to our parents. Again, remember, yesterday we spoke about building our success squad. Let's start practicing to people that we trust, okay? And from there, we can move forward with many different examples on maybe reaching out to a teacher and just learning about them, asking questions and sharing. That is like the most important thing, is just to be present with someone else. Okay, so advocacy is the key point that I want to say is, we can teach our kids all the different strategies, reading, writing, math. But if they don't know how to communicate that, how to get what they want when they're in a new environment, then you know what? It's going to be really hard for them to do that. I worked on that when I was in college. I had to help my friends, which was great. But that's where advocacy really started to play in, and then brought me to my job. And knowing to have the confidence to sit down with my boss and say, boss, look, like, I'm excited to be part of this company, but I need accommodations as someone who's blind. It may take me a longer time to read a report. It may take me, more times to understand a question that's being asked. And I had to advocate to tell him that this is how I learn. And it allowed me to have a relationship with my boss, but at the same time, allowed me to feel confident that I'm in control of myself, of Jake Sussman, because, well, I'm my own business. Okay, so if anyone has questions here, definitely ask away. I wanted to also share an idea of a really fun family activity that I work on with some of the other kids that I mentor with. And this is about, again, the self-confidence piece and knowing who you are and embracing yourself through someone that you idolize. A lot of kids like superheroes, and it's called the Superhero Movie Night, where if you think about a superhero's journey, why do kids and adults love superheroes? It's the only genre, okay? So what's really cool about that is that it's actually the story of us. And there's a point with this as it relates to advocacy, okay? So my favorite superhero is Superman. And what I learned about Superman was that his name isn't Superman, it's just Clark Kent. Okay, he was a boy that was also misunderstood, that was labeled because he was different, and he didn't really fit in well with his friends. And he felt isolated and alone, right? And he had to go down this whole path of discovering himself and embracing himself and who is he? And I realized that actually relates a lot to me. And a lot of us who also struggle in similar ways. And as soon as Clark Kent embraced himself, he put on that cape, that's when we know him as Superman. So, look, like, that's seen in every single superhero movie. So a really fun game to play at home is to watch the movie and look for the different areas that you can relate to your favorite character. And if you don't like superheroes, just watch your favorite movie and who your favorite character is and really look at why and how you may relate to that character. Okay, because you may uncover something that is, well, pretty remarkable in comparing that character to your life. So with Superman, and for me, when it comes to advocacy, I knew, just like Superman, he had to embrace who he was in order to advocate for himself. Okay? All those people that were criticizing him, he didn't let that bother him because he knew who he was at the core. Okay? And it's all about the analogy here. Because we may not be able to shoot lasers out of our eyes, but at the same time, we're going to be able to have our own superpower, which is, frankly, the way we learn. Okay, so there's so many different examples that I can share and areas of advocacy that I've found in my life that is so helpful. There's one more story actually that I want to share with you that is just such a great example of advocacy that is for myself and wasn't really for anyone else. This was the day when I actually embraced who I was for the first time, the moment when I put on my cape. And it took me until junior year of high school to finally embrace myself and for how I learn. Up until that point, I didn't really understand what a grade was. I kind of did well, but I didn't really have the fire inside of me. What happened was it all happened at Model UN. And for those of you that don't know what Model UN is, it's very similar to the United Nations, where you have all of these different areas and countries that you represent, and you talk about different policies and whatnot. This was, with kids around the world that were quote unquote normal. And this was the first time in my life that I was re-interacting with kids that were quote unquote normal. And honestly, guys, at the end of the day, there's no such thing as normal because we're all different. But in my mind, I was nervous because as a junior in high school, I was already 5 years in a school specialized for kids who learn differently. So how on earth am I going to advocate for myself in this environment called college where everyone is not going to be like me? So here I am, Model UN. It was at Yale University. I mean, it was so cool. It was in the middle of winter, and I was like so curious what was going on. And I realized that my country was the solution to the problem that my committee was talking about. And I was in the Committee for Urban and Sustainable Development, okay? My country was the model. I have a chance to stand up and share something that could be a solution. So there I was, late at night, researching and asking questions and learning. And I'm doing this all on my own. And before this, I didn't really understand what it meant to really advocate for myself and really learn and research and uncover things on my own. But I started to do that there, and I felt this like fire inside of me, and it just clicked. And at that point, I was able to stand up and have the confidence to lead that group of people from around the world. And I did this just because I was inspired. I felt good. And that all stemmed from the very beginning of me, embracing my strengths and challenges, and also knowing that these people, everyone, everyone around you is actually no smarter than you. That's what I learned. Everyone around you is no smarter than you, and you may have something to bring to the table if you don't stand up and share. So that was my shot. I did it, stood up, shared, and I led this group. And I felt like I was on top of the world. Okay, so bringing this down to what's happening now with your kids, with being home. It may not be Model UN, but trying to find environments where our kids can feel empowered to want to communicate, to want to advocate, and to have the confidence to do that in the first place. Embrace yourself and all of your challenges and all of your strengths. And that's who you are. And again, guys, this is like an unprecedented time right now. And I just want to tell you that I'm with you here. And don't stop asking questions. You can't stop asking questions because we're always learning. The day we stop learning is the day we die, honestly. We have to always be learning, and advocacy is all about learning. It's all about communicating. Okay? So, number one, let's reiterate, self-advocacy is the action of representing yourself, knowing who you are, and embracing yourself, to then communicate that to someone else who may not understand. Number two is knowing about timing, because timing is everything. Let's keep track of when we're advocating. And parents, again, I challenge you, okay? Whenever your kids ask for help, let's make them consciously aware that they're advocating. That is what self-advocacy is. You see, you just did what self-advocacy is. Let's get them excited to want to advocate. Asking questions, we want our kids asking questions. Questions are key. Okay? Another example here, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. That's Dale Carnegie. It's a great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's like the Bible. It's awesome. Great book. All right? And I want to see here, I know that Judy asked a question. At what age did you figure out your own learning style and start self-advocating? It's a great question. So I figured out my own learning style when I was transitioning from 6th grade to 7th grade. And that was the year I repeated a year. Because when my parents pulled me out of 6th grade public school, it was in the middle of the school year, and I was already so far behind that it made sense to want to repeat. But my confidence was low because I was thinking all of my friends in public school probably thought I got kicked out of school or something, or that I'm a nobody. And what made me so different? Why was I so different? So I had to figure that out at an early age, and it happened at around 7th grade. And it came with my trains. And I was always complimented on this one thing that I was really, really good at a time that wasn't so good for me. And that all just stemmed and grew upon each other. And I built momentum to really understand all the different areas of embracing myself. And a great activity for that, Judy, that was done with me was, it was like you get a glass jar with some beans, I think it was kidney beans, and like 3 or 4 golf balls. And the golf balls represent your strengths or your big priorities in life, like what you love. And the beans represent everything else. Okay? So I had to put an image and a symbol to each golf ball and how that represented my strength, because the strengths are the big chunks. And then your challenges, you have to embrace those, but you can't forget those. Okay, so that answers the first part of your question. The second part is, at what age did I start self-advocating? Again, out of school, I started to advocate to learn more about my trains and to seek out help from a local hobby store and ask questions from there. But I think it was middle school. Again, those advocacy pieces, embracing and figure out my learning style, and when I self-advocated, that I had to be confident first, and that was where it happened in middle school. I'll give you a story here. This is a great, great, great story. I was sitting around. It was my first day or first week at the Southport School in Connecticut. And I was sitting around a group, and I had a hard time finishing my sentences. And if any of you have kids that have a hard time finishing their sentences, I'd love to know. But when it came to finishing my sentences, I had not a lot of confidence because everyone always correct me or make fun of me. So I was sitting around sharing what I wanted to do for my summer break. And I would start and I'd be like, I wanted to do that, and I kept stuttering. I couldn't finish it. And then something remarkable happened. The girl next to me finished my sentence. She finished my sentence. Then the kid next to her finished my next sentence. And that was the moment I realized socially that people actually are there to help me once I'm in the right environment. And that was really where, Julie, I embraced that it's okay to learn differently, and when to ask for help. So yeah, guys, we're at our 30-minute mark, and I wanted to share a few announcements. That number one, I'm going to be bringing on a good friend of mine who's actually at the forefront of fighting COVID-19. He's dyslexic, and he's part of a research team at Columbia University, and they're doing some amazing work, and he's a great inspiration for kids wanting to get in the medical field, and it's going to be an awesome interview. His name's Zach, and he has dyslexia and is just such an inspiration. So I'm going to announce those dates coming up. And if you are interested as well, I do run a mentorship program for kids of all ages from 3rd grade into college on how to navigate new learning environments, especially for those transitioning into the next step, okay, either into high school or into college. And this could be anywhere in the world. And for more information on that, you can either reach out to me directly or find me on my website at www.superpowerconsulting.com. And, the spaces are limited, and there's been a lot of awesome activity from so many of you. And I really am grateful for this community and to be able to be all together, learning about each other and sharing. I just think it's so important. And guys, we're going to be doing this again. I have a really good feeling about this. And if you have any suggestions, feedback, definitely reach out. Let me know. This is just the beginning. So with that, I want to wish you guys a happy Passover, happy Easter, and spend time with family. Be present, okay? And just be there with each other. This is a moment we're never going to forget, okay? So again, I'm here with you. Stay healthy, wash your hands, and see you on Facebook. All right, guys.